My sister stole my daughter's birthday gift for her, golden child, son. So I drained the joint account and cut off every bill I was paying. Watching my entitled family panic when real life finally hit them was the ultimate justice. The scent of melting birthday cake, wax, thick and sweet, hung in the air, a cloying counterpoint to the rising tension in the room. I can still picture it, the paper lanterns swaying softly in the backyard breeze, the store-bought cake with its perfectly imperfect, crooked roses, because, let's be honest, who has time to bake a multi-year masterpiece when you're juggling, well, everything? We were just finishing the first verse of Happy Birthday, a joyous, slightly off-key chorus, when my sister, Tasha, made her move. It was so casual, so brazen, it almost felt like a magic trick. One moment, the big silver wrapped box sat there heavy and undeniable, right in the center of the gift table, with my mom's looping blue ink declaring, "To Maya, happy ninth, love, Gigi." The next, it was sliding almost silently across the polished wood, away from my daughter and directly into Tasha's oversized tote bag. My 9-year-old, Maya, had just blown out her candles in one triumphant puff, her yellow ribbon, tied hair barely swaying as everyone erupted in applause. That first slice of cake, by house rule, is always hers, cut by my hand. I turned to pass it, and that's when I saw it. Tasha, my older sister, with the silver box in her hand like it was a prop, or even better, like it had always belonged to her. "That one's from Gigi," I heard myself say, trying to keep my voice light, even to not disrupt the fragile peace of a child's birthday. "Could you set it by Maya?" But Tasha didn't even glance my way. Instead, she tapped the card with a press-on nail, a bright, defiant red. "Yeah, I know. She told me to handle it. DJ needs this for school." She practically shouted over the happy chatter, a public service announcement nobody asked for, certainly not Maya, who was now frozen, cake plate in hand. "That's mine," Maya said softly, almost to herself, as if simply reading the card's inscription aloud. "She's never rude, my Maya, just observant." Now, pause for a second. Let that sink in, the sheer audacity of it, the way a boundary was not just crossed, but completely annihilated right there in front of a child at her own party. And this isn't just about a gift, is it? This is about a pattern, a deep-seated dysfunction that had roots reaching back years, a parasitic relationship masquerading as family love. My aunt, Deb, bless her heart, tried to smooth it over. "We can share," she offered, her eyes darting between us, a nervous dance. "DJ has big projects now." As if a 9-year-old's birthday gift needed to be justified away, you could feel the rigid corners of an Apple product through the paper. It was clearly expensive. And then Tasha, with a flick of her wrist, slid the card off and tucked the whole thing, the whole expensive stolen thing, into her tote. Jiggy didn't mean for a 9-year-old to have this. "Lola, she told me it was for school. DJ starting at the magnet program. It's serious. He already has a Chromebook." My cousin muttered, almost under her breath. Tasha shot her a look that could curdle milk. My hands, I remember, were shaking around the plastic knife. The room felt like it had gone quiet, utterly silent, even though the kids were still clamoring for ice cream. Evan, my partner, reached under the table, his fingers finding my wrist, a silent anchor. I could feel my pulse thrumming beneath his touch. "Let's do presents after cake," I managed, and the terrifying thing? My voice sounded utterly normal. That's the part that still scares me, the way I could compartmentalize the rage. Maya, meanwhile, placed her cake plate down. She just stared at the empty spot where the silver package had been, then at the card, the one that had said her name. Tasha, ever the master of performance, leaned in an air, kissed Maya's head. "You'll see it all the time, baby. We'll bring it when you do homework at our place." DJ, her son, already bored with the empty space, was poking at a stray piece of ribbon stuck to the table. I swallowed hard, fighting back the tears. Not at Maya's party. Not in front of this family who could turn any show of my emotion into a punchline later. I thought about my mom, Gigi. She couldn't come, her knees acting up, or so she said. But I kept thinking, if Grandma were here, she would have seen. She would have told them to stop. That's what I told myself as I scooped ice cream, my hands still trembling slightly, mine to paper plates. My name is Lola. I'm 38, an investment analyst living in Oakland. I can run discounted cash flows in my sleep. Seriously. But my own family budget? Historically, it's been a chaotic disaster precisely because I was always the one patching everyone else's financial holes. My world revolves around Maya, my daughter. She's the kind of kid who reads under a blanket even in July and says, "Thank you," to cashiers without prompting. Evan, my partner, moved in 2 years ago. He's the first man in my life who, believe it or not, makes me a cup of coffee without being asked. Small things, but they add up, my family. They're loud, they're big, and on paper, they're broke. But, not too broke to miss brunch. I'm the one on speed dial when a tail light ticket spirals into a license suspension, when the rent's short, when tires need replacing. It started subtly, right after Maya, who was 3 when I adopted her, came home. I set up a weekly 75 transfer to my mom's checking for groceries. It never went down. It crept up to 100, then 150. When PG&E threatened to shut off that January, I put my card on autopay for her utilities, a 118, then under 32 in the summer. When her roof leaked, I wrote a check for 4,800. "I'll pay you back when taxes come," Mom said. Taxes came. Nothing came back. This is where we dive into something psychologists call the scammer's advantage, or more accurately, the dynamics of familial exploitation. It's not necessarily malicious in its inception, but it leverages existing emotional bonds and trust. When someone you love is consistently need, your natural inclination is to help. But when that help becomes expected, demanded, and taken for granted without reciprocity or even gratitude, it transitions into exploitation. The scammer doesn't have to actively defraud, they just need to passively accept and then subtly or overtly pressure for more. My internal narrative, "You're just helping family," is the internal voice of someone caught in this dynamic. Tasha, of course, had her own line item in my personal budget. I paid for DJ's basketball registration 3 springs in a row. They're out of scholarships, she texts each time. When a 5-year-old default made her unable to get a car, I co-signed her Honda, towed at 89 a month just for a year, she promised. We're at month 19. I've covered 9 of them. Christmas 2 years ago, I bought each kid a pair of white sneakers with their names stitched on the back. Maya, beaming, immediately put hers on and did a little march around my mom's living room. Tasha laughed, declaring them too bright for kids, then took Maya's back to keep them nice. DJ, on the other hand, wore his out the door and scuffed them in the yard on purpose almost immediately. Later, my mom sent pictures of the grandkids in matching pajamas to the group thread. Maya wasn't in them. She was sleepy, Mom said when I asked. But she'd been right there, watching. Maya's status in my family has always been this heartbreaking. Almost. Almost a grandkid, almost a cousin, almost invited. When my cousin made matching Cousin's Day shirts, Maya's name was spelled wrong and no one bothered to fix it. At Easter, Mom gave D, J, and Bree baskets overflowing with gift cards and a drone. Maya got a coloring book. She likes books, Mom said, as if that made it okay. And it's true she does. But that wasn't the point, and Maya knew it. I kept telling myself they'd adjust, that they were just old school about adoption, that time would work it out. I told myself the money wasn't a big deal because I could afford it. I make a good salary. My student loans are paid. My emergency fund is 6 months deep. You're just helping family. I'd whisper to myself every time I clicked confirm on another transfer. 200 here, 500 there. Disneyland tickets for the whole crew last August. because mom always wanted to go but never had the right time. 1/3 and 324 after my corporate discount. We even took pictures with a Mickey I personally don't like just because Maya wanted to. Once we got there, Tasha rolled her eyes at the price of bottled water and, with a saccharine smile, said, "Must be nice not to care." The first time I truly said no, they punished me for it. Last fall, Tasha asked me to add DJ to my Apple Family plan for school apps. I said no. Why? Because the last time he'd racked up a 300 worth of game purchases on my card. After that, the little comments started. Lola keeps her money tight, she'd say in front of people. Must be the Wall Street in her. I'm not on Wall Street, by the way, but the way she said it always made people nod knowingly. It's a classic tactic of gaslighting and reputation sabotage. When you assert a boundary, the manipulator doesn't acknowledge your right to it. Instead, they attack your character or motives, twisting the narrative to make you seem unreasonable. A week before Maya's party, my mom dropped the iPad storyline into the group chat. "I'm so excited," she typed. "I got Maya the iPad for school and art." I called her, asking if she was really sure about such an expensive gift. "It's on my card," she said almost defensively. I want to see her face when she opens it. She wasn't there to see anything, of course. Her knees, her pride, something kept her home. The box came with Aunt Deb, who placed it on the table as if it would simply stay put. Tasha, though, had been circling it since she walked in. I saw her read the card when she thought no one was watching. I watched her make small talk with Even about backyard plants, her hand resting on that silver paper like a cat toying with its prey. If I were the whole Lola, eager to make a joke, eager to avoid a scene, I would have laughed and said, "Hands off." But I didn't want to fight in my own kitchen. I didn't want Maya's party to become about me and my sister. So I cut the cake and I smiled and I watched my child learn, once again, exactly how far down she ranked. After everyone left, I plunged my hands into hot soapy water, scrubbing dishes until my fingers pruned. Maya had retreated to her room with her stack of cards. She reads every message twice, keeps the envelopes. Once, years ago, she'd asked me why some people didn't write her name. I told her because they're in a hurry. It was a lie. The jiggy card from the silver box she'd kept. She propped it on her dresser, weighted by a pebble like a treasured leaf. Aven came in with the last of the trash, and we just stood at the sink in a quiet that felt too heavy. That night, Tasha texted me, "Do you have the Apple ID? DJ needs to set it up for school tomorrow." I stared at the screen for a long moment, then just placed my phone face down. "Do you want me to say something?" Evan asked, gently. He meant to my family. "He's careful, Evan. He's watched me tie myself in knots to keep them from labeling me dramatic. He knows where my invisible lines are until, suddenly, they aren't." I didn't text Tasha back. I did text my mom. "We missed you today. Maya loved your card." And then, the truth plain and unvarnished, "Tasha took your gift and said it was for DJ for school." My phone rang 3 minutes later. Mom didn't bother with a hello. "Are you sure, Lola? Your sister wouldn't lie? She said you and her agreed." I closed my eyes. I didn't agree. Her defense quickly pivoted. She said Maya has too many screens. "You always say you don't want her on them." "I say that about YouTube," I clarified. "About slime videos, not about art apps for school." "You bought it for Maya?" Silence. Then the sentence that solidified everything, the quiet, devastating pronouncement, "Well, maybe DJ needs it more." There it was. Not even the decency of feigned confusion, just a clear, stark ranking, and it confirmed what psychologists call cognitive dissonance and an enabling behavior. My mother, faced with the uncomfortable truth, chose to rationalize Tasha's actions and minimize Maya's hurt rather than confront the painful reality of her own daughter's selfishness. This dynamic is enabled by the very person who should be setting the standard of fairness, creating a distorted family system where the most demanding or manipulative child gets their way, and others, particularly the more compliant or marginalized, are sacrificed. We didn't go to my mom's the next Sunday. We always do. Someone always makes eggs for dinner because mom burns breakfast and calls it a joke. I texted, Maya has a project. Then, we're taking a break for a while. No one responded. The break stretched like a rubber band, taut and silent. Taking a break from Sunday eggs is one thing. Taking a break from paying bills is entirely another. The next day, I sat at our dining table, laptop open, a pile of mail beside it. That table, by the way, has a scratch in the corner, a little scar from when DJ slid his toy across it, even after I told him to stop. My stomach was in my throat. I opened my banking app, scrolled to the joint account mom, and I had at the credit union. We'd opened it years ago after my dad died. A house emergency fund. I was the only one who ever put money in it. The balance at 8/4/12/71. Autopays hung off it like parasitic vines. Mom's electric, her water, Tasha's car insurance, the Netflix that always seemed to find its way back to my card. One strong move, I told myself. Not a fight, not a speech. A move. I called the credit union. The hold music was fluty and cheerful, completely at odds with the knot in my gut. I'd like to close a joint checking account, I said, giving the last 4 digits. The rep asked if both account holders could come in. The other holder is my mother, I explained, my hands damp. I'd like to remove my funds and close it. The rep clicked keys. I can do that in person. I can make you an appointment. I drove there, Maya's old music class CD, filled with songs about animals, still playing in the dash. It felt wrong to bring her. Evan was home. I left him a note. Bank back soon. At the bank, the woman at the desk recognized me. You're the one who got the roof loan for your mother. She smiled, as if that was a sweet, commendable thing. I sat in a chair that was too low and signed my name 6 times. They cut me a cashier's check for aita to 4/71. It felt like a brick in my purse. Back home, I logged into every utility I'd been covering, removed the joint account, set the phone plan to stop billing at the end of the cycle. One button, confirm. My mouse hovered over, are you sure? And I clicked yes. Then, the nerdy part, I took screenshots of every confirmation, saved them in a folder labeled differences. If I didn't name it, if I didn't document it, it would feel like a dream, something I'd undo later. My phone lit up with unknown calls within an hour. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened Maya's closet and pulled out a tablet I'd been saving for month by month. It wasn't an iPad, it was a Samsung, bought on sale with my credit card points. I'd planned to give it to her at Christmas with a case that had her name on it. I sat on the floor and put the case on anyway. It felt small and perfect and mine to give. I set it back on my highest shelf. That night, Evan made pasta. He didn't ask, how was the bank? He just asked if I wanted parmesan, and I cried anyway. Not big, dramatic sobs, just a slow, steady leak that wouldn't stop as I twisted spaghetti around my fork and thought about my mother's steady, unwavering doubt. Maya came in with a drawing, all of us on a picnic rug. I was a stick figure with long hair. She'd drawn Gigi, too, sitting on the blanket. We can bring this to her when she feels better. She said, I should have known then, right there, that the fight wasn't just about an iPad. It was about whether I was going to continue funding a family that could hurt my kid and call it fairness. The first missed call came 2 days later. Tasha, then Mom, then an unknown number, then Aunt Deb, who leaves voicemails that sound like voice memos, all rambling and vague concern. Call me baby. There's some confusion. Your mother is worried about the lights. I texted one thing to the group thread, you are off my accounts. Then I put my phone on do not disturb and took Maya to Trader Joe's for frozen mango. At the end of the phone plan cycle, my sister's line stopped working. She showed up at my door, DJ in Tao, almost as if she thought it was funny. "My phone's off," she announced, without a greeting. "No, you're really being petty over a gift." I stood on the porch, forcing her to talk to me there, the Ring camera silently capturing the angle. DJ had the iPad, still silver, under his arm. "Tasha," I said, my voice calm, like I was addressing a difficult client who hadn't read the email. "I'm not your bank." She laughed, a harsh, dismissive sound. "Girl, you make more in a month than I see all year. You can't even feel it. DJ needs this for school. He can't be the only kid without." I delivered the line I'd rehearsed in the car, over and over. "I won't fund a family my kid isn't part of." She opened her mouth, ready for a speech, but then she looked at the Ring camera. You could almost see the calculation flicker in her eyes. "So, you're punishing all of us because my son is in a magnet program? Because you stole from my child?" I said, keeping my voice even, "and because Mom chose to believe you?" She rolled her eyes so hard I could almost hear it. "I'm her daughter," she scoffed. "She knows me?" Then, a last-ditch throw. "Evan got in your ear. This is not you." Evan, of course, was inside, rinsing strawberries for Maya. "He doesn't fight my family for me. He keeps the counters clean, reads bedtime stories, and tells me when I'm about to bend because he knows what it costs me later." After Tasha left, Aunt Deb came by with a full pan of something that might have been lasagna. She doesn't pick sides out loud. She stood in my kitchen and said, "You know, your mom doesn't know how to talk about feelings," which is her way of saying Mom did wrong. She squeezed my shoulder. "Take care of that girl," she said, meaning Maya. Bills tumbled. My mom's lights almost got turned off because she waits until the final notice every single time. She called, her voice flat, and recited the amount due as if I were the one who broke the machine. I didn't ask her why she hadn't asked Tasha. I already knew. I simply repeated myself, calm. "You're off my accounts." The interesting thing about family dynamics, especially when money is involved, is the role of the enabler and the bystander effect, not just in emergencies, but in ongoing abuse. My family knew the score. My cousin knew DJ had a Chromebook. Aunt Deb knew Mom was struggling with her feelings. Yet few directly challenged Tasha or Mom. It's easier to go along, to stay quiet, to let the path of least resistance be taken. It maintains a fragile peace, but at the cost of the victim's well-being and sense of justice. It takes immense courage and often a breaking point for someone to disrupt that equilibrium. My cousin, the one who mentioned DJ's Chromebook, called me late one night. "You're good," she wrote, because what Tasha did was gross. She's the only cousin I've ever seen tell Tasha no and walk away with her peace intact. I told her we were okay, that we were doing Taco Tuesday at home and Maya was building a Lego house that looked like a ship. She sent a picture of her kids waving. "We're coming over Friday," she said, and they did. The laughter in my living room sounded new, different. 6 months slid by like that. We didn't go to Sunday eggs. We didn't go to Cousin's Day. No one from their side came to school events. My phone was quiet in a way that felt like a normal life. I put that cashier's check into my brokerage account, letting it sit in cash. It wasn't profit, it was boundaries. Then my mom called one afternoon while I was between meetings. "Why don't you come around anymore?" she said, as if she'd been in a coma for half a year. No hello, no how are you? Her voice had that soft, injured edge that always worked on me before. "I miss Maya." "I told you why," I said, keeping my voice low so analysts in the next cubicles wouldn't hear me trying not to cry. "You mad about that tablet, honey? That was months ago." "Mom," I said, "I'm gonna send you something. Please watch it. We have a Ring camera over our front door because packages go missing in our block if you don't look." I had stopped looking at that footage the day after the party because it made my chest tight, a knot of old anger. But I went back into the app and pulled the clip. Tasha reading the card, Tasha looking over her shoulder, Tasha lifting the silver box and sliding it into her tote, and Maya's voice in the background singing the last line of Happy Birthday to herself because she liked how the sound felt. I texted the video to my mom. It showed as delivered, then played. I sat with my laptop open to a spreadsheet, watching the little typing bubble come and go. Then my phone rang. I didn't see that, my mom said. She sounded smaller than I expected. Not sorry, not regretful, just surprised. Like the world had tilted on its axis. She told me? I know what she told you, I interrupted, my voice steady. I told you too. Silence. Then, very quiet, she said. I didn't think she'd lie. She did, I said. To you, to me, to Maya. I didn't say you chose to believe her. I didn't say you always do. I wanted to. But I let the quiet be the point. What do you want me to do? She asked, as if ordering from a menu. I don't want a performance, I said. I want you to treat Maya like your granddaughter. I want you to stop letting Tasha take what isn't hers, and I won't be paying your bills anymore. I could feel her flinch on the line. You know I have a fixed income? I know, I said. I'm not your backup bank. You're off my accounts. She started to cry, little breathy sounds she only lets out when no one else is home. Bring Maya over, she pleaded. I'll talk to Tasha. We're not coming this Sunday, I said. We're going to the park with Marisol's kids. You can come to us next weekend if you want. Call before. We'll make room. She hung up without saying yes, without saying no. That was as much as I was going to get. The next weekend, my mom didn't show. She texted a picture of her swollen knee and 3 words. Next time, baby. I stared at my phone, then placed it face down. I set 2 extra plates out on the table anyway, because some part of me is still 5 years old and hopeful. Marisol came over with her kids and a pie she picked up on the way, still in the grocery bag. Maya taught the younger ones how to play. Sorry, not sorry, Uno. Her tablet, the Samsung, sat on the table, its case emblazoned with her name in purple. It wasn't an iPad, it was cheaper and perfect. Evan downloaded an art app that lets her draw with her finger. She sketched my shoes. She sketched the pie. She sketched a little square with a bow and wrote Jiggy on it in careful letters. After everyone left, as I cleaned up the cups, I found Maya's stack of saved cards tucked under a placemat. The one from my mom, the one that had sat on the silver wrapped box, was on top. She had taped the torn edge. She does that to things she wants to keep. I bought a 3-slotted frame from the thrift store. I slid the Gigi card into the middle. On the left, a photo of Maya blowing out her candles, cheeks puffed, eyes shut. On the right, a printout of a text message I'd sent to myself, a little reminder, you don't have to pay to be loved. It wasn't revenge. It was a quiet rearranging of chairs around my own table. A month later, we had our own Sunday eggs. Evan burned the first batch, laughed and tried again. I set 2 extra places. Habit, hope. My phone buzzed. A video from my mom. Her face filled the screen. Her voice scarfed. Hi, baby. She said, her voice soft. I got her something small, nothing fancy. She panned. Camera to a sketchbook, heavy paper, a pencil set with a bow from the dollar store. I want to come next Sunday if it's okay. It was a start. Not a perfect one, no, but a start. Tasha sent me a paragraph that same day, starting with, so we're just going to act like you cut us all off because you're sensitive, and ending with whatever. I didn't respond. That too was part of the boundary. We never got the iPad back. DJ still had it. My mom never offered to replace it. No engraved messages showed up with my daughter's name. But that wasn't the point anymore. Maya sat at our table, drawing her cousin's hair from memory, the late afternoon sun streaming in over the sink. She laughed at something Evan said about a cartoon. The house felt like it belonged to us. The extra chairs were still empty. but they didn't feel like blame. They felt like space. Space for whoever shows up, right? I took the Ring camera clip and moved it from my phone to the differences folder on my computer, then to an external drive, not to share, not to hold over anyone, just to not gaslight myself 6 months from now when the story inevitably starts to soften in my head. I labeled it with the date and a word that felt heavy and simple enough for proof: truth. When my mom came the next Sunday, she knocked instead of walking in. She hugged Maya like she was afraid to break her, which was new. She watched her draw for a long time. She didn't bring up money. At the end, she said, "I can't make Tasha do right." "I know," I said. I walked her to the door. "But you can?" She nodded. It was the smallest movement in our family, a barely perceptible shift. Sometimes, though, that's a whole paragraph. I closed the door behind her and sat on the couch. Maya brought me her latest page. She had drawn our house with the blue door and a tiny sign by the knob that you could only read if you leaned close. It said, "Welcome if you're kind." I taped it on the inside of the front door, right where we'd all see it every time we left. That was the end of it. Or maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning. Either way, it was ours. And that truly is the deepest lesson here. You don't have to pay to be loved, and you certainly don't have to destroy yourself financially or emotionally to earn a seat at a table that doesn't respect you or your child. Real love, real family should lift you up, not bleed you dry. It's about setting boundaries, even with those closest to you, because sometimes those are the people who need them the most. It's about valuing yourself and your child enough to say no, to walk away from dynamics that are destructive, and to build the life you deserve. So here's a question for you, one that sits with me still. When is family loyalty not loyalty at all, but rather an excuse for exploitation? And what truly constitutes family when one member's pain is consistently ignored for another's convenience? I'm reading all the comments. Let me know your thoughts. And so that's where my story landed. It's a messy, uncomfortable truth, isn't it? One that probably hits a little too close to home for many of you out there. Because honestly, these aren't just my family dynamics. They're echoes of patterns that play out in countless families, often hidden behind the veil of love or loyalty. If you've ever found yourself caught in this kind of relational quagmire, feeling that subtle pressure to give, to enable, to minimize your own needs or the needs of your children for the sake of keeping the peace, then you know the emotional toll it takes. We talked about the scammer's advantage, that almost imperceptible way a demand for help can morph into an expectation, draining you dry. We saw gaslighting and reputation sabotage in action, how quickly a principled stand can be twisted into being sensitive or Wall Street tight fisted, and the painful reality of cognitive dissonance and enabling behavior, where people you love choose to believe a comfortable lie rather than face an uncomfortable truth, often protecting the perpetrator at your expense. Then there's the pervasive, often silent, bystander effect. All those who saw, who knew, but stayed quiet. This story isn't just about an iPad or a few $1,000s. It's about the profound cost of not having boundaries. It's about the moral injury we inflict upon ourselves when we consistently prioritize someone else's comfort over our own well-being, or worse, over the well-being of our children. My biggest regret isn't the money I lost, but the years Maya spent feeling like an almost in her own family, the quiet dignity she lost in those moments, and the erosion of my own sense of self-worth that came from being constantly exploited. The clear takeaway, the hard-won wisdom from all this is truly simple. Boundaries aren't walls built to keep people out. They are fences built to keep you in safe and whole. They are an act of self-love, and often the deepest form of love you can offer to others, because they demand respect, they demand accountability, They redefine love from a transaction to a genuine connection. If anything in this story resonated with you, if you felt that slow burn of resentment, that knot in your stomach when a text comes through, or that heartbreaking realization that your child is being overlooked, I genuinely want to hear from you. You are not alone in this. Share your thoughts, your experiences, your own hard earned lessons in the comments below. Let's create a space where we can support each other in navigating these incredibly complex family dynamics. Because speaking up, even just writing it down, is the first step towards rearranging your own table. And it leaves me with one final, frankly controversial question. At what point does unwavering loyalty to family become a disservice, not just to yourself, but to the very fabric of healthy relationships within that family? Where do you draw that line?